Hi there, my name's Lou, and today on this video I'll be taking you through growth mindsets. Why is a growth mindset important for ourselves and others? Well, it helps us to maintain our resilience in times of challenge. It helps us to learn and grow, and it helps us to adapt to change. It helps others connect with us. So if we're positive, if we seek ways to improve ourselves, and if we accept feedback from others and we grow, other people will definitely want to be around you. They'll want to work with you and will find you to be quite an enthusiastic person. A fixed mindset is a critical and negative energy to be around. It sees change and challenge as a threat, and it drains the energy of those around them. Have you ever been in a team or had someone around you who's always negative and criticises things? Other people around them have to use more energy to try and bring them on board and to get them excited or engaged with something. And that can be quite a draining energy to be around. Hopefully, you're going to be in a growth mindset as we go through this little session together. So let's ask ourselves those questions now, shall we? Do you have a fixed or a growth mindset? Now, it's not necessarily that you constantly have a growth mindset or a fixed mindset. We all wake up some mornings and feel a little bit grumpier than others, and we might not necessarily react to things in the best way that day. But generally speaking, if you look at these questions and ask yourself, am I quick to give up when things get tough? So am I consistently giving up when things get a little bit difficult? Do I get defensive when someone gives feedback? Do I stay in my comfort zone and stick to what I know? Do I avoid learning? And do I prefer to take few risks? Or, generally speaking, do you persevere when things get tough? Do you keep going even though it can be draining and tiring to keep going? Do you see constructive criticism as a chance to improve yourself? So when someone says, I think you could have perhaps done that better, do you take that opportunity to learn from how you could have done that better? Do you set yourself big goals or challenges? And do you strive to learn and develop yourself? Do you love learning, and do you look at loads of different opportunities to be able to build your skills and your abilities? And do you take risks and learn from failure? So are you not afraid when things don't go well, because you can pick yourself back up and you can start to learn what went wrong, and more importantly, learn how to do it differently next time. So you'll be sitting there answering those questions for yourself. But the good news is, if you're a little bit on the left and you're asking yourself, am I quick to give up? Do I get a little bit worried and nervous when I'm outside my comfort zone, and so therefore I tend to stick to what I know? If you are telling yourself some of those things, don't worry, because this video can help you start to think about how you change that way of thinking. So a couple of mindset scenarios for you here. Let's have a think about, when we receive critical feedback, what would somebody with a fixed mindset say about and think about receiving critical feedback? Well, the first thing they might say is, or do, is not want to listen. They might get a little bit defensive, trying to justify what they've done or how they've gone about something. They might try and avoid the feedback. So if someone says, I'd really love to give you some feedback on how you performed in that meeting, you might actually try and avoid it by saying, I'm sorry, I'm really too busy right now. We'll come back to it, and then you never do. A growth mindset. So somebody with that growth mindset who's receiving critical feedback will probably get quite excited about it. They might ask people for feedback. So they may have gone into a presentation, for example, and then purposely asked people how they did. They may follow it up to discuss how to implement it further. So if somebody perhaps sends some feedback to the individual, they might want to go and have another follow-up meeting with that person to understand it further. They generally thank the person for that feedback, because actually what we have to remember is, if someone's giving us critical feedback, that means that it's something that perhaps they feel that we could develop further. And that's probably taken them quite a lot of effort and care, and they might have even had to have added a little bit of courage in there to be able to tell you that. So we definitely thank them. We might want to clarify any points, and we definitely want to take action to improve so that we don't do that same thing again. So let's take the second scenario there. What do we do if we're facing an unwelcome organisational change? So say, for example, your role is changing or your team structure is changing around you. A fixed mindset might be resistant to listening to those changes. They might be cynical about the change, not wanting to get involved and seeing the benefits that that change might bring. They might refuse to operate in the new ways of working, preferring to stick to their old ways. And that's usually because they're scared or they're fearful of that change and what it means. It might be asking them to use new skills and new behaviours, and they're just a little bit nervous about doing that. A growth mindset, so someone with that growth opportunity will perhaps be looking at that change and getting excited about it, seeing the opportunities that it brings and the benefits it brings, and are probably the first to stick their hand up and want to get involved. They're probably looking to the future much more and exploring how the changes will work, and probably bringing the other people, their peers, around with them. They're probably bringing other people along on the change with them. Let's look at that final one then. So taking on a new project. A fixed mindset might have a lack of motivation. They might prefer to work alone. They might complain about the extra work of the new project, or they might be resistant to other people wanting to help them. How are you going to go about that project? How are you going to start it? And they may just brush off that offer of help and advice. A growth mindset would be energised by that. They'd be really excited about the fact that they've got a new project that can help them to develop new skills. They're probably going to be okay about asking other people for help, and they will definitely see this as an opportunity for them to improve their own abilities and skills. I know that I've been in a situation at work before where I've been asked to take on a new project, and my first reaction was, goodness me, I've never done that before. How am I going to go about doing it? So I will be honest that I did have a bit of a fixed mindset. But after I'd sat and thought about it for a while and started to plan the project, talk to other people who perhaps done it before and built a plan, I was much more comfortable and could see the opportunities that it brought. So don't be worried if at first you're a little bit critical or cynical about some of these things. That's okay. But as long as we get ourselves into that growth mindset, that's the important thing. So how do we get ourselves into a growth mindset? How do we build it and how do we stay there? Well, there's some really great steps that we can take. Firstly is to acknowledge that you're not perfect. So with that project that I was just talking about that I had, where I had that oh my goodness moment, I did have to acknowledge I'd never done it before. So therefore, whatever I did was probably not going to be perfect straight away. Don't be afraid. Not everything is going to go well first time. So take those setbacks as an opportunity to learn. And review the mistakes that you make so that you know what went wrong and you can avoid it in the future. We've all got an internal voice, and that internal voice can sometimes be a really great supporter of ours, but sometimes it can be telling us that we can't do something. So what we need to do is start to think about, listen to that voice. Is that voice more of a helping voice to you most of the time? And what it might be saying is, I can't do this yet. If your voice is telling you, oh, I can't do this, you've got a fixed mindset at that point in time. But if your voice is saying, well, I can't do it, but that's yet. If I go and talk to people, if I get help, if I learn a new skill, if I plan, I could do it. It's really important that we constantly keep taking on new experiences to stretch our comfort zone. Our comfort zone is that place where we're doing the same thing over and over again. We know how to do it, we know the results that we'll get from doing it, and therefore it's really comfortable and we're happy. And actually don't really stress yourself, because most people will need some things throughout their day that are in their comfort zone. We can't constantly being stretched, or else we probably get to a point where we're quite stressed out. But where those opportunities exist, do take on new experiences, because whilst it can seem scary going into them, we can feel amazing when we come out of that experience and having learned new things and achieved something that perhaps we didn't think was possible. Set goals. Keep an eye on the bigger picture. It's always really important to set some achievable goals. You might have a big audacious goal, and what you might want to do is break it down into smaller goals that are achievable. And that way we can celebrate successes, even if they're little wins. So celebrate just that small step that you've made towards that bigger goal. Be proud of what you've learned or what you've done that's new. So when you celebrate those successes, also spend a little bit of time to think about, wow, what have I learned and taken from that experience? And a really important one is to stop seeking the approval of others. Be grateful and happy with the performance you've put in first. There may be people that are around you that will give you feedback, but generally speaking, that feedback will always be to help you to improve further. So see it as that. And welcome that feedback as a tool to improve yourself. So don't feel threatened by that feedback. That person's taken great care to be able to think about ways that they can help to improve you. So thank you for watching the video today. I hope you've got a lot from it. And don't forget that we've got some other great materials online. So look out for those. Thank you.